That's my uncle's voice. The distorted audio played through my phone's speaker, but the casual, almost jovial tone was unmistakable. Yeah, her signature was surprisingly easy to mimic. Never even questioned it at the branch. My hand trembled, the phone nearly slipping from my grasp. My own uncle, Michael, the man who used to take me for ice cream after school, was admitting to forging my signature on loan documents. The world swam around me, a sickening wave of betrayal washing over everything I thought I knew. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest stories. Your support means the world. If you find this video valuable, please give it a like. My other viewers and I would love to know what city you're tuning in from, so please comment your city name down below. Now, let's get into the story. Just hours before this horrifying discovery, my Tuesday had started like any other. I was at my architecture firm downtown, putting the finishing touches on a presentation for a new client. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unfamiliar number. It was a local bank. Frowning slightly, I answered. Hello, this is Daniel Miller from First Horizon Bank. I need to verify some information regarding a mortgage loan application. His voice was polite, professional. Okay, I replied, a little confused. The application is for a property located at 14 Oak Street. My brow furrowed. Oak Street? I didn't own any property there. I think you have the wrong person, I said, trying to keep my tone polite. I don't have any loans associated with that address. I understand your surprise, Ms. Hayes, Daniel said, his voice softening with a hint of hesitation. But our records indicate that you, Chloe Hayes, are listed as a co-signer on the mortgage application. The primary applicant is Michael Thompson. My breath hitched. Michael Thompson. My uncle. What on earth was going on? That's impossible, I stammered, my mind racing. I haven't signed anything related to my uncle's loan. According to our records, the loan was approved approximately 6 months ago. All the documentation carries your signature. Our branch personnel recall your uncle personally bringing in the paperwork. A series of disjointed memories flashed through my mind. A rushed phone call from Michael a few months back asking for a copy of my driver's license for a quick administrative thing, his vague excitement about buying a new house, and a fleeting moment at a recent family gathering when he'd steered the conversation away whenever I asked about his new place. At the time, I hadn't thought much of it. Now, these seemingly innocuous moments felt sinister. But I would never co-sign a loan for that amount without knowing. I insisted, my voice barely above a whisper. There's another pressing matter, Miss Hayes, Daniel continued, his tone becoming more serious. The loan payments are now more than 3 months overdue. The current outstanding balance, including late fees, is around $21,000. $21,000. A cold dread washed over me. I could barely register the rest of what Daniel was saying. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against the rising tide of panic. Once the call ended, I didn't hesitate. My fingers flew across the screen, dialing the number of the one person I knew would believe me, no matter how insane this sounded. My best friend, Layla. I needed her sharp mind and unwavering support now more than ever. Layla, you are not going to believe this, I said, my voice shaking as soon as she answered. My uncle. I think he's forged my signature. Layla arrived at my apartment in record time, her eyes wide with concern as I recounted the unbelievable phone call and played her the damning recording. She listened intently, her brow furrowed in disbelief. Chloe, this is serious. Forgery is a felony. We sat at my kitchen table, the loan documents Daniel had emailed spread out before us like evidence at a crime scene. The signature on the mortgage declaration was a clumsy imitation of my own, the C in Chloe looping in a way that was distinctly Michael. I had seen that same flourish on countless birthday cards over the years. Layla pointed at it grimly. He didn't even try to make it look perfect. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail. It was Michael. His tone was light, almost jovial. Hey Chloe, just wanted to invite you over for dinner at the new place this weekend. Thought we could celebrate. Give me a call back. The casual invitation, knowing what I now knew, felt like a calculated insult, a cruel taunt. My anger, already simmering, began to boil. Okay, Layla said, her voice firm. We need to get a full picture of the damage. Let's check your credit report. We navigated to a credit monitoring website I rarely used. As the report loaded, my stomach dropped. The mortgage was just the beginning. There were 3 new credit cards listed, all open within the last 6 months, each with a staggering credit limit, and every single one was maxed out. I stared at the transactions: designer clothes, electronics, expensive restaurant bills, none of which I had ever authorized. Layla continued to scroll, her expression growing increasingly grim. There's also an unsecured personal loan here for $50,000 from some online lender I've never even heard of. My head was spinning. $50,000? How could this be happening? Then came the most sickening discovery. Layla clicked on another section of the report. Chloe, your investment account. It says it's being used as collateral for a business loan. My breath caught in my throat. My investment account, the one I had painstakingly built up over years, was now at risk because of my uncle's deceit. I don't own a business, I exclaimed, my voice rising in panic. The sheer scale of the fraud was overwhelming. Layla pointed to the bottom of the report. Look at your credit score, Chloe. It was excellent just a few months ago. Now, the number that flashed on the screen was shockingly low, a stark testament to the financial devastation Michael had wrought. The estimated total of all this, it's over $330,000, Layla said softly, her eyes filled with concern. My knees felt weak, and I sank into a chair, the weight of his betrayal crushing me. My career, my financial security, everything I had worked for was now hanging precariously in the balance. Just then, my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from my firm. The subject line read, "Urgent, meeting request." The sender was Mr. Henderson, a senior partner. The email requested I meet with him first thing in the morning to discuss a routine credit check that had apparently flagged some irregularities. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about money anymore. My professional reputation was on the line. The next morning, the knot in my stomach tightened with every passing minute leading up to my meeting with Mr. Henderson. Layla had stayed over, offering what comfort she could, but the anxiety gnawing at me was relentless. What would I say? How could I explain this mess without sounding irresponsible or, worse, complicit? As I waited in the reception area outside Mr. Henderson's office, my phone rang. It was Michael. His voice, usually so jovial, had an edge of forced concern. Chloe? Just wanted to check in. Heard you got a call from the bank. Probably just a mix-up, you know how those things are. His blatant attempt to downplay the situation, after I had listened to his confession, sent a fresh wave of anger through me. Michael, I said, my voice cold and steady despite the tremor in my hands, I know everything. There was a stunned silence on the other end. Then a nervous chuckle. Everything? What are you talking about? The mortgage, the credit cards, the personal loan, my investment account, and the recording, Michael. I heard your voice. The jovial facade completely shattered. His tone turned sharp, defensive. Chloe, listen, I can explain. Explain how you forged my signature. Explain how you stole my identity and jeopardized my entire future. I cut him off, my voice rising with each word. There's nothing to explain, Michael. I know what you did. I hung up, my hands shaking. The call had only solidified my resolve. Later that day, after a surprisingly understanding, albeit concerned, meeting with Mr. Henderson where I explained I was a victim of identity theft and was actively working with the authorities, Layla and I decided to delve deeper into how Michael had managed to steal my information. Layla, ever the resourceful one, suspected a more deliberate method than simply guessing passwords. She examined my laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. After a few minutes, her eyes widened. Chloe, look at this. There's a keylogger installed on your system. It's been recording everything you type. My blood ran cold. He hadn't just stumbled upon my information. He had actively spied on me, meticulously collecting my passwords and personal details. The level of premeditation was chilling. That evening, as we were piecing together the puzzle, I remembered a few odd instances involving my mother. Hannah had called a couple of weeks ago, asking seemingly innocent questions about my online banking habits. She had also borrowed my laptop once, saying she needed to check her email. At the time, I hadn't thought anything of it. Now, a nagging suspicion began to form in the back of my mind. Could she possibly be involved? Layla, meanwhile, had been researching Michael's online presence. She discovered a website and several social media profiles for something called Riverbend Investments. The site promised incredibly high returns with minimal risk. My name and a slightly blurry, manipulated photo of me were prominently displayed as the lead architect and financial strategist. My jaw dropped. He wasn't just stealing from me. He was using my identity to scam others. We scrolled through the comments on the social media pages. Several individuals were asking about their investments, expressing concerns about delayed payouts and a lack of communication. The sickening realization dawned on me. Michael had not only betrayed my trust but had also dragged my name into what appeared to be a large-scale investment fraud. I felt a surge of anger mixed with a deep sense of responsibility for the innocent people who might have been duped by this scheme. We knew then that this was far bigger than just a personal betrayal. It was a full-blown criminal enterprise. We had to confront him, and we had to involve the authorities. Armed with the recording, the evidence of the keylogger, and the horrifying discovery of Riverbend Investments, Layla and I knew we couldn't wait any longer. We needed to confront Michael, and this time we wanted to observe Hannah's reaction as well. I called them both, inviting them over for dinner that Friday night, feigning a desire to catch up. The forced normalcy felt suffocating, but it was necessary. The atmosphere during dinner was thick with unspoken tension. Michael was his usual jovial self, trying to make small talk, but his eyes darted nervously towards me every few minutes. Hannah was uncharacteristically quiet, her gaze shifting between Michael and me, a worried frown creasing her forehead. Layla sat beside me, her presence a silent source of strength, a subtle recording device discreetly placed in her purse. After a strained meal, I couldn't bear the pretense any longer. I took a deep breath and placed my phone on the table, the recording app already open. "Michael," I said, my voice steady but firm, "there's something I need to talk to you about." I pressed play. His voice filled the room, casually admitting to forging my signature. The color drained from Michael's face. Hannah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Michael immediately launched into a series of denials, his voice rising in agitation. "Chloe, I don't know what that is. Someone must be trying to frame me." "Don't insult my intelligence, Michael," I retorted, sliding the credit reports and loan documents across the table. "These are in my name. I never applied for them. And this," I gestured to the Riverbend Investments website pulled up on my laptop, "this is using my face and my profession to scam innocent people." Michael's denials grew weaker, his eyes darting towards Hannah, who remained silent, her face pale. Layla then chimed in, her voice calm but authoritative. "We also found a keylogger installed on Chloe's laptop, Michael. It recorded everything." Michael visibly flinched. Hannah's eyes widened, a flicker of shock and perhaps guilt crossing her features. It was then that I turned to her. "Mom? Did you know about any of this?" Hannah's composure finally broke. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Chloe, sweetheart. Michael was in trouble. He just needed a little help. He said he'd pay everything back." "Help? Mom, he stole my identity. He put me hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And he's using my name to defraud other people." My voice trembled with anger and hurt. Then came the devastating twist. Hannah, her voice barely a whisper, confessed, He asked me about your investment account, Chloe. He said it would be a safe way to get him started." I told him about it." The air in the room seemed to thicken. My own mother had facilitated this betrayal. The pain was sharper, deeper than anything I had felt before. "Safe way? Mom, that was my future. My security." Michael, seeing Hannah's confession, became desperate. "Chloe, please. Don't do this. We're family. We can work this out." "Work this out? You systematically stole from me and used my identity for your criminal schemes. There's nothing to work out, Michael. I'm going to the police." I stood up, my legs shaking, the weight of their betrayal almost unbearable. "Both of you need to leave. Now." They pleaded, they cried, they tried to reason with me, but my decision was firm. The trust was broken, shattered beyond repair. As they finally left my apartment, The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of their devastating betrayal. I knew my life would never be the same. The next morning, armed with the recordings, financial documents, and the painful confession from my mother, Layla and I went straight to the local police station. We met with Detective Riley, a no-nonsense investigator with a weary but kind face. I laid out the entire ordeal, my voice trembling as I recounted the betrayal by my uncle and the shocking involvement of my mother. Detective Riley listened intently, his expression growing more serious with each piece of evidence we presented. He took meticulous notes, his questions sharp and focused. He was particularly interested in the Riverbend Investments website and the potential victims involved in the scam. "This isn't just a case of identity theft, Ms. Hayes," he said grimly. "This looks like a significant fraud operation." He assured us that he would launch a full-scale investigation immediately. His first step was to contact the individuals who had left comments on the Riverbend Investments social media pages. The stories that began to surface were heartbreaking. Elderly couples who had invested their entire retirement savings, a single mother who had poured in her inheritance, all lured in by the promise of high returns and the seemingly legitimate face of Chloe Hayes. Detective Riley also contacted First Horizon Bank, providing them with the details of the fraudulent mortgage and the recording of Michael's confession. The bank's internal investigation quickly confirmed the forgery and flagged numerous other suspicious transactions in Michael's accounts. They also uncovered a disturbing piece of information. A junior bank employee had seemingly bypassed security protocols on several occasions, granting Michael unusual access to information. The possibility of internal complicity added another layer of complexity to the case. Days turned into a tense week. Detective Riley kept us informed of the progress of the investigation. He revealed that Michael, realizing the walls were closing in, had attempted to withdraw a large sum of money from his accounts and had purchased a one-way ticket out of the country. Thankfully, the authorities had managed to intercept him at the airport just hours before his flight was scheduled to depart. He was now in custody, facing multiple charges. Meanwhile, the news of the Riverbend investment scam had started to leak into the local media. While the reports didn't initially name me directly, the connection to my profession and the mention of a local architect being involved as the face of the scheme sent shockwaves through my firm. I was summoned to another meeting with the senior partners. This time, the tone was less understanding and more concerned. My reputation, and by extension the firm's, was at risk. My future at the company hung precariously in the balance. Despite the professional turmoil and the emotional exhaustion, I found unexpected support from colleagues and friends. Many reached out, expressing their disbelief and offering words of encouragement. They knew my character and refused to believe I would be involved in such a scheme. Their faith in me provided a much-needed glimmer of hope in the darkness. Detective Riley's investigation continued to unravel the intricate web of Michael's deception. Hannah was brought in for a more formal interrogation. Initially, she stuck to her story of simply being manipulated by her brother, claiming ignorance of the full extent of his crimes. However, faced with the mounting evidence and the potential for her own legal repercussions, her carefully constructed facade began to crumble. Under intense questioning, Hannah eventually confessed to actively participating in forging my signature on several of the loan documents. She admitted to knowing about the fraudulent credit card applications and even confessed to providing Michael with details about my investment account, believing his assurances that it was a temporary measure and that he would repay everything. Her motivations, she claimed, were rooted in a misguided sense of familial loyalty and a desperate desire to help her brother out of his financial troubles. The revelation of my own mother's active involvement was a devastating blow, leaving me feeling more betrayed and alone than ever. The investigation into the bank employee also yielded significant results. The junior employee, a young man barely out of college, confessed to accepting bribes from Michael in exchange for providing him with confidential information about my accounts and helping him circumvent certain security measures. He revealed a series of clandestine meetings and cash payments, painting a picture of calculated corruption. Meanwhile, Detective Riley's team followed the complex trail of money flowing from Riverbend Investments. They uncovered a network of shell corporations and offshore accounts in various tax havens, meticulously designed to launder the stolen funds and conceal Michael's illicit activities. The sheer scale and sophistication of the operation were staggering. I decided I needed to confront Hannah again. The pain of her betrayal was a raw, open wound. Our conversation was fraught with anger, tears, and accusations. She offered weak apologies and tried to justify her actions, but the trust between us was irrevocably broken. I struggled to reconcile the image of the loving mother I had always known with the woman who had actively participated in tearing my life apart. Our relationship hung precariously by a thread, the future uncertain and clouded by pain. Adding another layer of hurt, Detective Riley informed me that his investigation had uncovered the involvement of a longtime family friend, Eleanor. Eleanor had been an enthusiastic promoter of Riverbend investments, actively encouraging several elderly members of our community to invest, fully aware that it was a scam. The betrayal by someone we had considered a trusted friend cut deep, leaving me questioning the true nature of the relationships in my life. As the investigation neared its conclusion, Alexander, Layla, and I began preparing for the upcoming legal battle. The evidence was overwhelming, and the authorities were confident in securing a conviction against Michael and potentially others involved in his criminal enterprise. The road to justice was long and arduous, but I was determined to see it through, not just for myself, but for all the innocent victims who had been so cruelly deceived. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation on the first day of Michael's trial. The media had picked up the story, highlighting the family betrayal and the significant financial losses suffered by the victims of Riverbend investments. I sat in the witness box, my hands clammy, my heart pounding in my chest. Across the room, Michael sat with his lawyer, his usual confident demeanor replaced by a nervous twitch in his jaw. Hannah sat beside him, her face pale and drawn. The prosecution laid out their case meticulously, presenting the forged documents, the damning bank records, and the testimonies of several of Michael's victims, their voices filled with pain and anger as they recounted how they had been out of their life savings. My own testimony was harrowing. I recounted the shock of the initial phone call, the devastating discovery of the extent of the fraud, and the profound sense of betrayal by my own family. My voice wavered at times, but I pressed on, determined to convey the full impact of their actions on my life. Hannah also took the stand. Her testimony was a carefully crafted narrative of regret and claimed manipulation by Michael. She admitted to her involvement in forging some documents but downplayed her role in the larger investment scheme, portraying herself as another victim of Michael's deceit. Her performance felt hollow and insincere, and I could see the skepticism in the jury's eyes. The bank employee who had assisted Michael also testified, his voice barely above a whisper as he admitted to accepting bribes and providing confidential information. His testimony further solidified the image of a calculated and far-reaching criminal enterprise orchestrated by Michael. Michael's defense attorney attempted to paint him as a desperate man who made poor financial decisions, arguing that there was no malicious intent. However, the overwhelming evidence, coupled with the testimonies of the victims and the clear evidence of forgery and the elaborate Ponzi scheme, made his arguments seem weak and unconvincing. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury finally reached a verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the foreperson read out the charges: guilty on all counts, fraud, identity theft, and operating an unlicensed investment scheme. Michael's face crumpled, and a sob escaped Hannah's lips. Justice, it seemed, was finally within reach. The sentencing hearing took place a few weeks later. The judge delivered a stern condemnation of Michael's actions, emphasizing the devastating impact on his victims and the egregious breach of trust. He handed down a significant prison sentence, ensuring that Michael would face the consequences of his crimes. Hannah received a lesser sentence, taking into account her cooperation with the prosecution, although the judge made it clear that her actions were still a serious betrayal. The bank employee also received a sentence for his role in the scheme. As Michael was led away, his eyes met mine for a fleeting moment. There was no remorse, only a cold, hard stare that sent a shiver down my spine. The legal battle was over, but the emotional scars would undoubtedly remain. The immediate aftermath of the trial was a blur of emotions: relief, exhaustion, and a lingering sadness. While justice had been served, the deep wounds of betrayal would take time to heal. I threw myself into the arduous process of rebuilding my life. With Alexander's continued guidance, I worked diligently to repair my credit score. a task that felt like climbing a mountain after the avalanche of fraudulent activity. My firm, recognizing my integrity and the unfortunate circumstances, not only retained me but offered me a well-deserved promotion, a testament to my hard work and resilience. I felt a profound sense of responsibility towards the other victims of Riverbend investments. Many had lost their entire life savings, their trust shattered. I connected with them, sharing information about the legal proceedings and offering whatever support I could. We formed a small, informal support group, sharing our stories and finding solace in knowing we weren't alone in our ordeal. The confrontation with Eleanor, the family friend who had actively promoted the scam, was one of the most painful experiences. Her justifications were weak, her apologies hollow. The trust one had once placed in her was gone, replaced by a deep sense of disappointment and the stark realization that some bonds, once broken, can never be mended. My relationship with Hannah remained strained. We had a difficult and tearful conversation where she expressed remorse, but the chasm of betrayal between us felt insurmountable. I set clear boundaries, acknowledging our familial connection but needing space and time to process the depth of her actions. The future of our relationship remained uncertain. In the midst of the rebuilding process, I discovered a newfound sense of purpose. Witnessing the devastation caused by financial fraud and experiencing it firsthand ignited a passion within me to help others. I began volunteering with a local nonprofit organization that provided support and resources to victims of similar scams. Sharing my story and offering guidance to others who had been through similar experiences became a source of healing and empowerment. Inspired by my own journey, I decided to establish a foundation dedicated to raising awareness about financial fraud, particularly within families. I wanted to empower others with the knowledge and resources to protect themselves and to offer support to those who had fallen victim to such devastating betrayals. Months later, I found myself standing on a stage at a conference on financial security, sharing my story with a room full of people. The journey had been long and painful, filled with betrayal and uncertainty. But as I looked out at the faces in the audience, I felt a sense of strength and purpose I never knew I possessed. The earthquake of betrayal had shaken my life to its core, but from the rubble, I had emerged stronger, wiser, and determined to turn my painful experience into a beacon of hope for others. My new beginning was not just about rebuilding my own life. It was about helping others navigate the treacherous landscape of trust and deception, ensuring that no one else had to endure the devastating consequences of familial betrayal alone. Years have passed since the trial, and life has settled into a new rhythm. The scars of betrayal still linger, a reminder of the painful lessons learned, but they no longer define me. The foundation I started has grown beyond my wildest expectations, providing crucial support and resources to countless victims of financial fraud. Hearing their stories, their resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship, fuels my determination to continue this work. My relationship with Hannah remains complicated. We have established a fragile peace, communicating occasionally, but the deep trust that once existed is gone, perhaps forever. Michael remains in prison, his actions having irrevocably fractured our family. I haven't spoken to him since the sentencing, and honestly, I don't know if I ever will.